Hello YouTube, this is Neon. Today I'd like to talk about some of the crazy experiences that I had in this particular foster home that I was in. Introducing y'all to my new towel. I got a white towel hanging up there. Hello. I know that's pathetic. I know it's kind of weird. I think we're going to have a new towel from now on. It's a white towel in addition to my blue towel. Because my blue towel was lonely. So I want to have a white towel with my blue towel. So, this crazy foster home that I was in at the age of 15. Oh my gosh, where do I start? When I first moved in there, one of her rooms, this woman had a home with 5 rooms in it. Her room, and then upstairs there was 3 rooms. I was in one of those rooms. And as you're walking upstairs, there's sort of one platform, and then there's a room there. And you walk up the second little half flight of stairs, and then there's the other 3 rooms. So I guess it was a 5-room, 3-bathroom home, because I think that they had their own restroom in the room on that little half flight of stairs on that platform where they went into their room. Okay, so initially when I moved in, I remember the room adjacent to me, as opposed to the room where their door faced my door, I remember seeing they would bring candles up at night a couple times. And I remember that, oh, what are they doing with these candles? And because the electricity was working, and why are they looking like they so secretive, like they up to no good? Apparently they was doing drugs, and their lighter had burned out. So they would go, I guess, light the candle on the kitchen stove downstairs, and then they would go upstairs with their candle, so that they could light whatever pipe or whatever they needed to light. I was never exposed to that directly. Most of the rooms that she had rented out 3 of the rooms. She had the master bedroom, and she only used 1 room for foster children, and she would have, while I was there, she would either have 1 or 2 boys in that room that I was in. So one thing I want to talk about is the room that faced my room. There was a couple that lived in that room. She rented that room too. And the boyfriend, I'm supposed to put my glasses on when I'm reading, because that made me look good. Then I take them off when I'm talking to you, and then I look more smart. But I'm doing the opposite. Anyway, he would beat her. So sometimes I would hear it, whatever. I was a scrawny 15-year-old boy. She was bigger than him, but I guess he was either stronger and or more aggressive, so he would still beat her. And one day I remember she ran into my room, and she's basically begging him to not hit her, and she kind of like halfway, like sort of leans in and jumps on my bed, and I'm terrified. I mean, I come from an abusive home. I'm like thinking I'm gonna get my ass beat somehow in this situation, and I just kept telling him, Mrs. I don't even remember that woman's name. Whatever that foster woman's last name was, Mrs. So-and-so. I was like, she's going to hear, she's going to get mad. She's going to hear this going on. That's all I kept saying over and over again. That was my attempt to save her from getting beat up without me getting my ass beat. It was terrifying. He did decide not to hit her. They went back to their room, and there was some commotion, but I don't think he was beating her up anymore. I didn't do anything. I was terrified, and I didn't know what to do. In fact, I didn't even tell the woman who owned the home until they had already moved out. There was one foster kid that was there when I moved in. He was 17, hated me, and he moved out shortly thereafter. But I remember at one point he told me, I was like, well, hey dude, how you doing? He was like, don't call me dude. And he was like, don't you ever address me. Do not talk to me. We're not friends. We'll never be friends. And so I was terrified of him. He like had his little, I don't know, he played basketball or whatever. He played some sport. So he was built, and he was strong, and he hated me, so I knew don't ever talk to him. I was small and scrawny. And I remember his friend was there in our room one day, and when I walked in, I knew the rules. I'm not allowed to speak to him. I'm not allowed to address him, and I just followed those rules. I didn't want to get beat up. I grew up getting beat up all the time. So his friend was actually kind of nice. He was like, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And being like a normal, cordial human being. And I was like, "Hi," and I really didn't say anything, and I just kept to myself. I remember his friend thought like, "Wow, he's kind of weird. Like he done got really punked," which I had. So. And actually his friend didn't have the attitude of, "Oh, well, you done got punked, he done told you the rules." But his friend, it almost seemed like his friend felt bad for me, actually. It seemed like his friend kind of felt bad for me and thought it was a little weird that I was sort of like, I wouldn't talk, I wouldn't get in their way. So we had another young, fortunately, thank God, he wasn't there long. He moved out. I think he moved back with his family. So there was a young guy that came there. He was 12 years old. I was 15. He came to stay there. And he didn't stay long either. One day I came home and he had some really nasty claw marks on his face. And he had said that our foster mom had attacked him and that she clawed up his face. So the teachers reported it. Some like CPS workers came by. They interviewed her, they interviewed me, they interviewed this 12-year-old, and in my estimation, because I just heard it when they was interviewing her and him together, she manipulated the situation. He had a fit and broke into tears and was yelling. When they interviewed me, I hadn't been there that long, so she had not yet attacked me. So I told her no, she had never been physically aggressive with me. They moved him out, but she was never prosecuted for what I now believe that she did. Her and I later got into it because one day she basically told me to go out and clean the backyard. Her backyard was a nightmare. It looked like it was one of them episodes of Hoarders. It wasn't that bad, but it was bad enough. And I remember looking at her through the window. I didn't realize she saw me. I pretended like I had a shotgun. I went, psh. So she did see me, and she got pissed off. She called me back up, and I ended up not having to clean the backyard, but she got into a physical altercation with me. And basically all I did was, I was like, "You're not gonna hit me." I'm like, she's a woman. At this time, she was shorter than me. I was very scrawny, but I was taller than her. And basically what it is, as she tried to hit me, I just would grab her hands and I held her off of me. We were about equal in strength because she was much bigger in terms of weight. And I never attacked her back, but I wouldn't let her hit me. And at one point, I remember she tried to like swing me and thrust me on the bed so she could sort of jump on top of me. And it didn't quite work. One of my legs jumped up in the air, but I still managed to keep footing with the other. And I remember that leg that thrust up in the air hit a little cabinet, and it made a little cut in my lower leg, but that was all. Sometime later, I remember asking her, "You don't cook for me, you don't show love or affection or anything like that." I was like, "Why do you even bother being a foster parent?" And she said, "Oh, a little side change." She was not a nice lady. I saw her some years later at a store, and I think it was in a nearby city, and I was doing voter registration or something in front of this store, and she happened to go to the store, and she tried to talk to me as though we had been longtime friends, and I just looked at her like, "Why are you talking to me, you evil person?" And she kind of got the message and left me alone. She had a dog. She had a dog that had this big cancer growth on it. Now this dog would be cute not only if it didn't have a cancer almost the size of a softball, but if she had taken care of it, because it had too much hair and it was dirty, and she didn't like the dog in the house. Somehow I let the dog in the house. I had left the sliding glass door open too long, and I couldn't physically remove the dog because the dog would have bit me. So I remember I left a trail of dog food going like down the stairs and going out the door so that He would eat the dog food, and once he got further enough outside, I would run and close the door. So I was hiding up the stairway, waiting for the dog to get outside, and her son caught me. Her son was in her room, which I don't think he was supposed to be in. I later found out that her son had struggled with drug addiction. And when he saw me, he thought I was hiding, spying on him. I really wasn't paying any attention to him. He had threatened to beat me up. He was way bigger than me. And he basically told me, I'm going to punch you in your face to give you an example of what's going to happen if you tell my mom that I was in her room. And he said, after I finish punching you, just know it's going to be 10 times worse if you tell. And I didn't know what to do. This guy was way bigger than me and stronger than me. So all I did was did like that. I was like, okay. And I remember thinking, God, I hope he doesn't knock me unconscious. I never tried to fight him back. So that was kind of an interesting and sad and very frightening experience. But I guess he maybe had a good heart, or maybe he trusted. I was trying to explain to him what was going on. I wasn't spying on him. But he decided not to hit me, thank God, particularly being as big as he was. And I never told his mom that he was in her room. So I know all of this sounds pathetic, but like I said, the truth don't make none of us look good. And I'm just telling the truth. Foster mom attacks me, scratch face. So there was one dude when I had originally moved in there. He had one arm. The other arm, I don't know if it was by birth or by an accident, but he had lost one of his arms. Or he had one arm. He was a big dude. He was much bigger and taller than me. And he was in the room that was halfway up the stairs to the second floor. And he had a girlfriend who lived with him. And I didn't really think too much about them. I was very afraid of him. Straight up, I was even with his one arm, I knew he could whoop my ass. So I never crossed him. Most of her tenants, I never tried to cross. I was afraid of them. And one day, she was gone. I was the only one in the house. Most of the time I was living there, I was the only foster kid there. Because the other two that had been there, they only stayed for like a month. I hear this racket upstairs, and I'm like, whoa, and someone's like begging for mercy or screaming. So I open the restroom door, and I see there's one woman, his girlfriend, this dude with one arm. I'm going to call him the one-arm bandit. Although, I wouldn't be saying that if he was healed right now. So, the one-armed bandit's girlfriend was on her knees, and this really big woman was standing above her while she was on her knees and about to bust her in the face. And as I'm looking through, I'm peeking through like, what the hell is going on? He either walks up to the door or he's very close to the door already. So his face appears, and he says, Neon, close the door. And I try to say something, and he says, I told you, close the door. So I closed the door. Okay, I was terrified. So I'm upstairs in the restroom. It's on the second floor. I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I do? Do I jump out the restroom window and go call the police? They probably gonna kill me if I do. I don't know, are the police gonna believe me? I don't know. I have no clue. So I didn't do nothing because I was terrified. Later on, the one-armed bandit told me, he said, Neon, I apologize for what happened. This is probably so many days ago, or maybe it might have been a week later. He apologized. He said what had happened though was that my girlfriend, I think it was crack addiction. She struggled with crack addiction, and she had went to my family members, and she told my family members that I had asked her to borrow money or to give her money for me. And in fact, she took that money and bought crack and smoked crack with it, and she used my family to get that money. So I had my sister come over to put a beat down on her to set her straight. And that's, you know, that's how we do things. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay, I'm never going to be stealing from your family. So those were some of the crazy experiences I had in that foster home. I was there for about 6 months. I went back home, which was a nightmare afterwards, and only stayed at my biological mother's home for maybe another 6 months, then went back to foster care. So that's about it. Like, subscribe, share, comment commercials, recommend my videos. Do one or more of those things if you like this video, and best wishes.